under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Beagle,
I'm here.
Deputy Mayor Resnick,
Present.
Councilmember Behrman,
Present.
Councilmember Gotcho, Councilmember Grenlund Fox,
Here.
Councilmember O'Day,
Present.
Councilmember Sharp.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Changes or additions to the agenda as presented tonight. City Manager Brown.
Yes, Mayor, we're looking to add an item to the agenda, perhaps under consent agenda, which is a recommendation to approve the First Amendment to the purchase and sale agreement between Pine Cove Investments LLC and the City of Wixom for properties known as 1591 and 1599 Chanticleer, formerly known as 1593 Chanticleer, to assign the purchase to Pine Cove's Chanticleer LLC and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
What's council's choice? Consent or new business? All right, we'll add it under consent agenda.
Right. So that is the last then?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Number 5. Any other?
No, that's
Anybody
me, sir.
anybody from the dais? All right. And it brings us to our first item of business tonight. It's a presentation. It's a proclamation. The Detroit Finnish Camp Cooperative Summer Camp Association. Would somebody like to come up and meet me at the podium? All right. This year is the 100th year anniversary for the Finn Camp, and we have a proclamation, and it reads as follows. Whereas in 1925, residents of Finnish descent from the Detroit area came together with a shared vision of establishing a summer camp to preserve and celebrate the cherished traditions of their native Finland, and whereas they purchased the land on the shores of Loon Lake and on June 21, 1925, established the Detroit Finnish Cooperative Summer Camp Association, fondly known as FinCamp, and whereas the purpose of the FinCamp has always been to promote the social, intellectual, cultural, and physical well-being of its members, and whereas FinCamp has served as a gathering place for generations, hosting drama performances, athletic games, gymnastic festivals, and community picnics, with those traditions proudly continued today by second, third, fourth, and fifth generation members, and whereas the FinCamp was recognized for its historic and cultural significance with the designation of a Michigan Historical Site on October 16, 1997, and whereas the Detroit Finnish Cooperative Summer Camp Association will celebrate its 100th anniversary with a centennial celebration the weekend of June 20th through the 22nd, 2025. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and City Council of the City of Wixom hereby honor and congratulate the Detroit Finnish Cooperative Summer Camp on the occasion of its centennial celebration and extend this official proclamation on the 10th day of June 2025 with heartfelt best wishes for continued success and tradition for the years to come. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm Ralph Aikinen. I'm the president of the FinCamp Association, and it's been a great experience for me, my son, family members. One of the things about the FinCamp, I guess, I was put on I didn't realize I was going to speak, but for my son in particular, he's a heavier set kid, and we have kids with disabilities there, and it's a really safe place that is monitored for children to enjoy themselves, not worry about who they are. There's no picking on or bullying or anything like that. This is one of the things I take back from the FinCamp from my years of being there, that it's just a safe place for everyone to enjoy themselves no matter who you are. And it's been a pleasure to be a part of. And that's why I donate my time to help it be a better place. Thank you for the recognition. We appreciate it.
Very good. Congratulations. We're looking forward to the celebration.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
Yes.
Glad you guys can make it.
Thank you.
Are we invited? Are we invited? Are we invited?
Yes.
Finish for a day.
Oh, yeah. It's Friday, June 20th, correct?
Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yep, but the,
The fire is Saturday, but Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
okay,
There'll be events all 3 days.
okay.
We'll get you a schedule.
Very good, thank you. All right, thank you. The next item of business is approval of minutes. We have one set of meeting minutes to approve tonight. That's from the council meeting of May 27th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Support.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the regular city council meeting minutes of May 27th, 2025. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Correspondence, we got 2 items of correspondence tonight. The first one is the resignation from Downtown Development Authority Board Member Katie Guzowski and a resignation from the Cemetery Board Member Tutek. Moves us on to City Manager's Report. We have 2 tonight. First is the fire report from April 2025. Any questions for Chief Geisler? You must be doing too good of a job. Nobody's got questions for you anymore, man.
Okay with that.
How about the police report? Any for Chief Langmeyer? Wow. Go ahead, Councilmember Barron.
I just couldn't help but notice the 3 CSCs that came in April. Were they connected in some way, shape, or form?
No, there's none that have been connected that I know of.
It just seems the only 3 this year are all in 1 month, so.
Yeah, it was not a good month, let's put it that way.
Okay. All right, that was my only question. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Chief. It moves us on to the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There'll be no separate discussion of these items unless council members so request, in which event the items will be removed from consent agenda and added to the regular agenda at the end of unfinished or new business. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented tonight? Support. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So it moves us on to the next call is item of business is the first call to the public. The rules to the call to the public are as follows. The public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence and again immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reason for addressing the council, and all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Do we have anybody for the first call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close the first call to the public. We have no unfinished business tonight, so we'll move right on to new business portion of the meeting tonight. New business number 1 is a recommendation to confirm the mayor's reappointments of Michael Monahan to the Cemetery Board with a term to expire June 30th, 2030. Carissa Osborne to the Downtown Development Authority with a term to expire June 30th, 2029. John O'Brien Jr., Peggy Van Sickle, and Jeff Winters to the Parks and Rec Commission with terms to expire June 30th, 2028. Vanessa Willett to the Planning Commission with a term to expire June 30th, 2028. Doris Dublazig, Mary Grant, and Kathleen McLaurin to the Senior Citizen Commission with the terms to expire June 30th, 2028, and Arvid Peterson and Ray Thorsell to the Zoning Board of Appeals with terms to expire on June 30th, 2028. Do I have a motion?
Support.
Thank you. These are all present current members of the boards that they're being reappointed to, and I really appreciate them stepping up and wanting to do another term. So if there's any questions, I'll answer them. All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to confirm the mayor's reappointments of Michael Monahan to the Cemetery Board with a term to expire June 30th, 2030, Carissa Osborne to the Downtown Development Authority with a term to expire June 30th, 2029, John O'Brien Jr., Peggy Van Sickle, and Jeff Winters to the Parks and Rec Commission with terms to expire June 30th, 2028, Vanessa Willett to the Planning Commission with a term to expire June 30th, 2028, Doris Dublizig, Mary Grant, and Kathleen McLaurin to the Senior Citizen Commission with terms to expire June 30th, 2028, and Arvid Peterson and Roy Thorsel to the Zoning Board of Appeals with terms to expire on June 30th, 2028. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. New business number 2 is a recommendation to approve an additional $70,000 for the West End Common Project Design Engineering budget, increasing the total budget project to $110,110 from DDA Special Studies account number 248-729-956.481. Approve the associated budget amendment and authorize the city manager to assign a community project funding grant agreement. Do I have a motion? Thank you. Assistant City Manager Benson, and we also have Laura Cloutier from the DDA here to answer any questions. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'll take the lead on this, and Laura may be able to help fill in some gaps here. The long story short, and I will try to summarize this, the DDA and City Council approved an engineering budget for the West End Commons project in 2023. After that initial approval, we then were awarded a community project funding grant through Representative Haley Stevens' office. And what that did was essentially doubled the budget for the project, the available funds to do the project. And I take responsibility for it. We should have updated the project design budget at the same time with a larger scope of work for the design. We didn't think of that, and we should have ahead of time. But essentially, because it was larger, we had more funds to work with, and we had more things to figure out. We've required more assistance from HRC to design this project, as well as to help us navigate the Department of Housing and Urban Development's requirements for in terms of what they need done for study, the information they need, understanding what all of these regulations mean. So it came to our attention that we had gone over budget, and immediately determined that we needed to get an updated approval from both the DDA and City Council for this project in order to kind of keep moving. We are pretty close to the end at this point. However, one of the big things that's associated in this proposed additional budget is $18,000 for a subcontract to another engineer to help us with the Section 108 historic preservation review, as well as some of the other kind of more detailed components. These are requirements from the federal government. These are not things that we would normally do. In fact, we know for a fact that there is no historic significance to the property in question here. However, federal guidelines require that these studies be performed, and unfortunately we do, if we want to move forward with those grant funds, we do need to complete those things. We had hoped originally that we might be able to do more of it in-house, but as an example for your Section 106 review, it has to be performed by a registered,
A registered archaeologist?
There you go. I don't use the word archaeologist very often. That's a large part of the additional budget. And the other things is, it's accounting for the overage that we have already gone over. We have spent with HRC up to this point about $52,500, which is $12,390 more than originally authorized. That would also incorporate the rest of their services, taking us through the bidding process, reviewing bids, and then getting it to construction. The one upshot is that this will help kind of offset some of our costs on the construction engineering side of this when this comes back to you for approving a final bid for the project to construct it. But those are bridges we cross when we get to that point. The one other upshot is that we do have a copy of the grant agreement with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's in your agenda packet. So we are continuing to move along with the HUD process. All we'll need to do after signing the grant agreement and getting it reciprocally signed is complete the environmental review, wait for them to move it through the process, and we are still on track to have this project out to bid in the fall. So, we feel confident with how we've moved this forward. After going through with the DDA, they did authorize this expenditure and recommended both the expenditure and the budget amendment to you all. With that in mind, we're happy to answer any additional questions you may have.
And with what Drew was saying with the grant agreement, once that grant agreement is signed, we will have access to the funds. The funds are still there. They have not been pulled. We haven't been given any indication that they're going to be taken away or reallocated or anything like that by this administration. So,
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I have one question. Is it because of the HUD grant paperwork that required us to do a more extensive environmental assessment?
yes.
review?
Yes. We have to get a letter from the 5 tribes, native tribes in the state of Michigan, stating that it's not a former burial site or sacred site. We, as Drew indicated, an archaeologist has to make sure that it's not there's no woolly mammoths or anything underground. So it took on a new life that we weren't aware of, and for Drew and I, we're not archaeologists. We can't do that in-house, so that's why we had to go a subcontractor route.
I think they would have found a mammoth when they did the water main.
Yes.
I agree
Yes.
with you. And actually, on that note, I do want to add one other key point, that this is a proposed update to the budget for the design work for this project. This is not we are guaranteed to spend all of the funds that we're requesting. So as an example, we do hope that we can come in under, for the ASTI, environmental assessment work. We don't necessarily think that we'll need all 18,000. However, they said, hey, budget on the high side, and if we can come in lower, that's great. And it's kind of the same thing on the HRC side. So, we wanted to make sure that we didn't run into this scenario again where we, sort of overpromised and underdelivered on the budget side. Yeah.
Councilmember Garland Fox?
Thank you. So you indicated because of the grant, we were able to do more things on that site, which resulted in more engineering fees. So of the 52,000 additional, how much is because of these new features that we're gonna have on the site?
I don't know. That's a little bit hard to assign specific pieces, but what I'll say is some of the things that changed from the original scope of work to this new scope of work are we were able to add in the restroom component, and that alone was probably $250,000. We were able to do a more robust kind of stage design, kind of higher quality materials, the fire feature, kind of a lot of those pieces that, and then really it's the process of working through it. So then we had to, it takes a little bit more work working through the DDA design committee, working through the DDA, city council meetings, just all of these different steps of like, okay, are we designing this the way that we want it to be? The incorporation of a new sign that we had not
New
originally
sign.
planned for.
And also we went from more of an open green space with a bocce ball court to 2 additional seating plazas with lights overhead and, a little bit more extravagance than what was originally proposed.
Okay. So do we know what percentage of that grant that we received is going for these additional engineering services?
So the grant fund will not pay for the design engineering work. They will pay for the construction engineering, and that is rolled into the project budget for that.
Yeah.
So we do not expect to be reimbursed for these costs, but everything after the point that, we approved, hey, we're doing it, that will all be covered.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Behrman?
Kind of following down that path, what is our budget for the construction and engineering and construction? I seem to remember $1 million being
The most recent total cost estimate for the project was just shy of 1.3 million.
Yes.
Of which 80% is covered by grant funds.
Between the county grant we've received and the federal grant we're receiving.
So the federal grant's 740,
Yeah,
and the county grant,
is just over 200,000. And then the DDA has set aside 360,000.
so the city's paying for the design engineering? No, the
The
DDA
DDA
approved it,
is.
yeah.
Yes, the DDA is.
I mean, I still wanted, I guess I appreciate that it's moving forward, and I appreciate that the federal government hasn't pulled the funding, but at the same note, like, we're right at the beginning, and we're already way over from the beginning. Like, I don't want this to turn into a $3 million plaza, and frankly, if it gets to that point, I'm not, this would be a sunk cost anyways, because I'm not sure that would be approved. So, and I'm not really sure how our consultant went $12,000 over without telling us. I think that's a big red flag too. Like, how did they spend an extra 12 grand without saying, hey guys, your retainer's up? And I think that's a conversation that needs to be had. I'm indifferent on this because I feel like a lot of this could have been addressed quicker, but I also don't want to necessarily kill the project either. I guess I'll wait to see what everybody else has to say.
Councilmember Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor. I understand Councilmember Behrman's concerns, and I shared some of those this morning, and I called Assistant City Manager Benson to ask him about what are the chances this just doesn't happen, that either funding gets pulled, which we all know the current state of federal administration's budgetary issues right now. There is a chance that spending could be curtailed. And then the other question was, even if we got the spending and we have to do these environmental studies, is there a chance we just don't build it for whatever reason? But the costs are going to be there almost, if we do it, we're going to spend $70,000. If we don't do it, we got to spend the $70,000 now, or else it may never get done if we just keep dragging it on. And I kind of think, just now as we were talking about it, as Councilmember Behrman was bringing up some good points, I was thinking about the sheets thing on that corner that is going to have nothing there for years to come, most likely. And we're talking about a project that even if we lost the federal funding, we still have $500 and some thousand available to do something there.
Yes.
And maybe we can find some more money to do a little more. I just feel like that's a kind of a development that we've gotten our arms around. We've gotten some excitement in the community, and I think we need to move forward, and I support although I do agree about the 12,000 retainer, going over the retainer amount. But that's been a long-standing issue with HRC. We all remember West Road a couple years ago. So, or at least Peter Behrman and I do remember West Road a few years ago.
As Drew said, I take full responsibility as well. Yes, it's also on the consultant, but we do get the invoices, and, we missed that it was going over as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. But I support the request for the 70,000. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, seeing no further discussion, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to approve an additional $700,000 for the West End Commons project design engineering budget, increasing the total, $70,000.
Okay.
For the West End Commons project design engineering budget, increasing the total project budget to $110,000 from DDA Special Studies account number 248-729-956.481. Approve the associated budget amendment and authorize the city manager to sign a community project funding grant agreement. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. New business number 3 is a recommendation to approve an expense of $15,500 for power line burial work, design work from DTE Energy for the Chambers to Wixom Road sidewalk project from DDA Special Studies account number 248-729-956.481, and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement. Do I have a motion?
Support.
Very good. Who wants to take this one?
So this is, finally, we've gotten some numbers from DTE on their design work costs. Drew, you can help me fill in the blanks, but I think it's after a year and a half or almost 2 years of discussing this project with them and asking them for this design work cost that originally they came in with an estimate of $50,000 for their design work. And then a week or so later, they came in at $15,500, so, which is much better than $50,000. So this would allow them to do what they need to do for their work and pre-planning of the burial, the line burial along Pontiac Trail between Chambers and Wixom Road.
So, yeah, just to add to that, essentially, HRC is actually doing well on their budget this time. The slowdown has really been with DTE. HRC cannot finish their design until HRC tells us what they need. And they at no point told us that they needed money to design this until they were like, we kind of need some money. So then we went back and forth for a few months on that. Now, the one piece of credit I'll give to DTE is that their scope of work to bury these lines is more extensive than just the section between Chambers and Wixom Road on the north side of Pontiac Trail. To bury the 3 poles on that side, they will also have to bury I believe it's 3 poles on the south side. 2 are in the parking lot of Wixom Station, and 1 is in front of the Wixom Dentist. So, there's a fair amount of work that goes into that, and we need them to tell them what easements that they need, and then how do we structure the sidewalk kind of around all of that. So, we appreciate they came down to a more reasonable kind of design number. Still think it's a bit high, but, essentially it comes down to, we would like to continue moving forward on designing the sidewalk, for the intent of having a wider, safer sidewalk. We'll need to work with DTE on this. So, the intent is still to, the project's budgeted for the summer of 2027. We have a rough cost estimate, and again, we can't really finalize that until DTE, they estimate that the total burial work will probably be around $250,000 when we get there. But again, you don't finalize that, find out if we need easements until they tell you they do. So you can tell I have a bit of frustration from our experiences here. But happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Councilmember O'Day?
I'm just curious if they gave any explanation for the sudden decrease. I mean, to go from 50 to 15.5, is great, but.
The primary thing is, my understanding of they're used to working with private developers who say, I need you to design and construct it, and so they give you design and construction and engineering at the same time. So then that's what they gave us, and then we told them, well, no, we're still not committing to construction, I just need you to design it. And it's almost like they didn't understand that concept, but then when they did, they were like, oh, okay, well, 15.5 just to design it up front. And so, but to be fair, you bring up a great point, there's almost assuredly going to be a construction engineering cost when, if and when we get to that point, $30,000 to $40,000.
Deputy Mayor Resnick?
I had a similar experience with some of my commercial buildings where it came in at about 30% of what they initially said it was, so I'm very used to it. But begs the question, I remember when you went out and looked at the estimate for the western end of the city, like down Pontiac Trail and where the West End Commons are going to be, it was going to be some ungodly millions of dollars. Does that mean it could actually be potentially less than that?
So this set of lines will be 200 to 300,000 is our estimate. And the primary difference between those and the ones closer to Drafting Table and along Old Wixom is just the size and the number of utilities on those poles. All the ones in this particular section are really just local transmission lines. There are some other, Comcast local lines, but it's not as complicated. The millions of dollars is really when you get into the trunk lines.
Guide wires and all that.
There's just a lot more involved. So those little sections still will be likely very expensive. But this was always the easiest of the bunch to do.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor. I spoke to Assistant City Manager Benson about this topic too this morning, because I asked him, DTE doesn't seem like they want to do it. And Mr. Benson has some strong opinions on their desire to help us, which makes me a little concerned. We pay them 15 and then almost like extortion, and we'll put that in minutes, that it's 15,000 next month, and then next month it's 15 more, and oh, well, there's this. But at least we show we're serious. That sidewalk really needs to be modified right there, and if it takes this, I think the city needs to do it, the first step of cleaning up a lot of the utilities. Although I did talk to DPW Director Sigma about other things that are on those poles, because one of the comments in DTE's contract to us says we're responsible to deal with all the other companies that are on those utility poles, including some very heavy fiber optic cables, I guess, and things that we may not even be thinking of that are going to go into the, DTE will give us 15,000, but then who knows what bill's coming from the other utilities that are up there. I'm not saying I know that there are any. I'm just thinking about, we got to plan for the unintended consequences of this. I'm sure 15 is going to be much higher just for the design piece by the time before we even start breaking ground or anything. But I feel like for $15,000 we need to get started, so thank you.
And Councilmember Sharp, you know what less telephone poles mean? Less signs.
Ooh. That's a benefit. That's an unintended consequence. It's a good one.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to approve the expense of $15,500 for power line burial design work from DTE Energy for the Chambers to Wixom Road Sidewalk Project from DDA Special Studies account number 248-729-956.481 and authorize the city manager to sign the agreement. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. Very good. New business number 4 is a recommendation to adopt a memorandum of understanding and cooperative services agreement between the City of Wixom and the Downtown Development Authority for service cost sharing for the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Support.
Assistant City Manager Benson.
Thank you, Mayor. Laura will be, helping me with this one as well, but this is an item that you all may be familiar with. We've started doing these the last 3 or 4 years. And essentially, this agreement just outlines the DDA's reimbursements to the city for services that we provide to and for the organization in the district. This particular MOU is pretty similar to how we've structured this in the past in terms of they pay a flat 5% for the specific city departments that provide kind of general administrative services. And then they also fund a full-time heavy equipment operator. The average wage of one, they do not pay for one specific person, for the Public Works Department as well. So other than that, there really aren't any major modifications. I'd say the most significant thing is that we did add kind of a little bit more detail to the MOU as it relates to all of the things that the DDA or that the DPW does within the DDA district. This was a little bit of just as to codify and as a reminder for both the DDA board members as well as city council and city staff of everything that we do as it relates to the district and part of why their reimbursements to us are so important. And then in addition, we're also looking at starting a more physical kind of checklist of the aspects that the DDA is most concerned with in the MOU. So I believe Laura will kind of take the lead in working with Tim just to make sure these kind of monthly maintenance or quarterly or whatever the cadence is. So those are kind of the major adjustments. Laura, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, I was going to refer to the checklist that you just referred to. So I'm going to start that at the new fiscal year and report back to my board every month on that and work with Director Sigma for seeing what's getting done and what might not be getting done. So.
Any questions, discussion? Councilmember Behrman.
My only question is regarding, I know this winter there was some strife over like the snow removal, but I noticed that the time frame that was the issue this winter is still the same time frame that's in the memo of understanding. So is the DDA, is that going to be made clear to your DDA members that they're signing off on 72 hours, and if it's not plowed within 72 hours, or that if it's not plowed within 24 hours, they really shouldn't be complaining until the 72-hour mark hits?
Yes, they've already approved this, and we've already discussed that. Whether they'll remember when the snow falls, they will get a reminder from me.
Okay, I just want to make sure that if they're signing off on it and we're signing off on it, then there won't be complaining come winter time again.
I hope not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no further discussion, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to adopt a memorandum of understanding and cooperative services agreement between the City of Wixom and the Downtown Development Authority for service cost sharing for the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks. Hey, and Laura, good luck Thursday at the main event.
thank you.
Bring home some more hardware for the city. You guys been
I'm gonna
working.
cry.
You've been working hard, and it's nice to see when we get these awards that your efforts are paid off. So
Thank you.
good luck.
Thank you.
Moving on, new business number 5 is a recommendation to award the bid for water taps, water and sewer system repairs, water valve repairs, and water and sewer main installation through the Oakland County procurement process contract number 011485 to D'Angelo Brothers of Farmington Hills, Michigan for 3 years. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Or
Mr. Sikma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, what we're recommending is utilizing D'Angelo Brothers for our water and sewer contracts. Right now, they've been with us now with the city for a number of years and have done very well responding to emergencies and also doing all our taps for the water system. And they've also done some emergency work with the sewers. We utilize the same contract that Oakland County uses for this service, and it has been working very well for us, and right now we're recommending to utilize them again for the next 3 years.
Any questions? All right, seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to award the bid for water taps, water and sewer system repairs, water valve repairs, and water sewer main installations through the Oakland County procurement process contract number 011485 to D'Angelo Brothers of Farmington Hills, Michigan for 3 years. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business number 6 is a recommendation to accept the proposal from B&C 10 Air HVAC Systems Incorporated of Milford, Michigan for various heating, ventilation, and air conditioning maintenance, inspection, and repair services for 3 years in a quarterly amount of $3,208 with the option of a 3% increase for 2 additional years. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Mr. Sigma, you're up again.
Thank you. Yeah, this one, we have maintenance contracts for the units that are on the roofs here at City Hall, at the fire station, and the library and community center. And they've, actually BC10 has been doing this work for a number of years as well, the last 5 for sure. And again, we have no problem recommending them. We did put this out to bid on Mitten last month, and they still remain the lowest value on this. Now, this does not include a replacement HVAC unit, so we would go out to bid if we replace any major HVAC units on the roofs. With that, yeah, I'd be open to questions if needed.
Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Thank you. I think I asked this last time we did this, Mr. Sigma, but during the pandemic, we had installed the UV treatment systems on a number of our HVAC units, and those bulbs are only good for like 3 years. Does this contract include replacement of those
This
bulbs?
does not, no, it does not include the UV disinfection pieces, but yeah, we haven't been utilizing them as of late.
So they're not really
Not really,
used.
right.
it's expensive to
It
replace
is.
those bulbs.
It is.
All right, that answered my question.
Thank you.
Councilmember O'Day?
Yeah, first question being, it says for 3 years with a 3% annual increase for 2 additional years. So will that be 3% in year 2 that carries through to the end of year 3, or 3 and 3?
It would be 3 years at that rate, and then the 4th year at 3% increase is what I understand. I think we have it in there. That was my understanding, that they were gonna keep it for the initial 3 years at this rate, and then 3 years, or 3% on the 4th year and then the 5th year.
Okay, all right, I read that differently then. Thank you for clarifying. And then the other thing is, you know, obviously, as much as we like to take the lowest bid, is there any reason why, I mean, the highest one is 3 times.
Right.
And I know sometimes people bid high just because they don't want to do the work to begin with,
Mhm.
but are we sure? There's quite a disparity in some of these.
So, yes, I agree with that. And we do have a contract with them for hourly rates for replacement parts and those kind of things. We did review that as well, and they were more comparable on those values. BC10, we've been working with them for a number of years, and they know what we know, if you will, and what we expect. So they bid accordingly. And I think the other groups, you know, on the high side, they didn't know what they were bidding on exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Sharp?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Sigmund, I was looking at this, and in my own house, I just don't do service contracts, just especially on HVAC. Either they're broken or they're not. I mean, you got a service call just to tell you everything's working fine, kind of throwing money down the drain, I think. But we don't have a person on, you don't have an HVAC tech, so we're kind of hiring out our HVAC tech. But I was looking at the list of items on here. The Gilbert Willis Comfort Station in Wirehouse has a $20,000 adopted budget per year for HVAC maintenance. I assume that's what that means, and $464 projected expense. There can't be much going on in those 2 places for HVAC, is there? Does Wirehouse has air conditioning in it, or heat? It must have heat, I guess.
It does have heat.
Is the Gilbert Willis Comfort Station going to have heat and air conditioning in it?
So
The new one, I assume that's what we're talking about?
the Gilbert.
Oh, Gilbert Willis.
Gilbert
I'm
Willis
sorry, not
is
Gunner
a
and Tower.
historic. It's
Okay.
a historic building.
We know
And,
Gilbert Willis Comfort Station?
I'm sorry, Gibson. Yeah. I think it also includes the Gibson House.
Okay.
But the Gibson is a boiler.
So just help me understand, we're going to pay these guys, how it works. They come out and they just basically check the box and say, yep, everything's fine, and leave. Or it's broken, which we probably already know. So we're just paying them for a service call to tell us, I know it's in the budget. I'm just kind
Right, no.
of being devil's advocate here,
Yeah,
rather
sure.
than saying I'm not going to vote yes on it.
Right.
I'm just
So,
like, thinking about the business of HVAC, the annual inspection, you
yeah,
know?
so there's
Probably a really good
there's
business.
four inspections that they do, and each quarter, they replace all of the air filters.
Filters. Oh, so we actually get something
Oh, yeah.
for the money, not just, okay.
No.
So there's a regular maintenance that's kind of like getting an oil change in your car. You
Right.
do it on a regular basis.
Yep. They
Unless
run through the paces.
unless the engine's falling out, you get it included in your contract. Okay.
And
We are getting something for our
in the
money rather than
summertime,
just a service
yeah, in
call.
the summertime with the heat exchanger, they wash off the heat exchanger.
Okay.
And,
All right.
you know, make sure there's no leaks in that for reasonable, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to catch by
Oh, no.
surprise. I like to let Mr. Sigmund know my questions ahead of time, so he has a chance.
That's fine.
Know where I'm coming out of left field.
Yep.
Thank you very much. All right.
Any other questions? Seeing no further discussion, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to accept the proposal from BNC 10 Air HVAC Systems, Inc. of Milford, Michigan for various heating ventilation and air conditioning maintenance inspection and repair services for 3 years and a quarterly amount of $3,208 with the option of a 3% raise for 2 additional years. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Bless you. New business number 7 is a recommendation to approve the First Amendment to the contract for Oakland County Equalization Division Assistance for the Real and Personal Property Assessment Administration Services to extend the current agreement to August 31st, 2025 with funding from Contractual Services Assessing Account number 101-257-956.145 and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. Do I have a motion?
Support.
City manager, or assistant city manager?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep. Between Steve and myself, we can take this one. So we've been keeping you all in the loop about the status of the Oakland County Assessing Services contract. I won't rehash everything, but suffice to say, we are not satisfied with the extension proposal that they have originally sent out, nor are many of our similar communities who have utilized this service. So all of us have been kind of scrambling to look at and evaluate alternative service options. There are contractual services out there for assessing services. Sometimes you can partner with other communities. There's kind of a couple different ways you can do it. However, they take time to work through, and our position has been that we don't want to rush into making a decision. There are communities, actually many, who have already signed on to new service providers. In fact, I was telling Steve this, the fun little note. The county's already lost a quarter of their communities in terms of contract value within a month of making this decision. So, we also have concerns about what Oakland County service levels will be as a result of what they've done. All of that is a lead up to say Oakland County has offered to allow communities to exercise in part an option in our current contracts that run through June 30th of 2025 to extend the contract under mutual agreement at its current terms. It says up to 6 months. They've really only offered 60 days or until August 31st. Our recommendation to City Council is to exercise that option, and that's the agreement before you tonight. And what that will do is give us approximately 2.5 more months to continue to evaluate our options and make a recommendation to you all of how to proceed prior to August 31st. So I would say we'll have more information for you in terms of our recommendation. We have actively been kind of working through due diligence and trying to evaluate the best choices, but obviously aren't prepared to make a recommendation for a long-term solution yet. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Gatchel?
Thank you. So before we get into the options part of my questions, the actual contract versus the First Amendment, the First Amendment, Section 1 states that it's good through August 31st, 2025, but the original agreement in Section 11 says we have to give 90 days notice to cancel. So how does that timeline work out then? Because we're already inside of 90 days, like what happens when we have to cancel before, or this just terminates, or?
I believe this would just terminate.
Okay. All right, so they're comfortable with that then, without like August 31st, we just call them at 4:59 and say, we're done.
Well, actually, they would know in advance of that because they'll be bugging us, mid-August to say like, hey, are you signing the extension or not?
Okay.
So we'll have given them the heads up if we're not going to recommend signing the extension.
Okay, thank you. In terms of where we are with evaluating other options, you had said other cities have already moved on. Is this something that we're going to put out to bid for, like a service agreement, or?
So what we've learned from our fellow communities, we've essentially been following all of their bid processes, and it comes down to there are up to three players who are putting proposals in on all of these deals. So we're actually going the direct proposals route to save us time. We know who's going to bid on it. We do have kind of our own opinions on and recommendations on some of the service providers, which again, we will be happy to kind of dive into at the time that we're making a recommendation. But the other thing is we didn't necessarily want to be the first ones to make a decision because, as an example, there's one firm that has taken on 6 communities, and they did so within 3 weeks of each other. Our concern has been, well, what if you're the 6th, or what if you're the 7th? Are they going to be able to keep up? So, and actually, one of that firm, I'm not going to call them out by name, and good for them, but they've actually told us they will not be submitting a proposal to us because they've taken on so much. So, we're soliciting proposals individually, and at the same time evaluating some partnership opportunities outside of just private service agreements. So we're trying to be able to flesh kind of out both routes before making a recommendation to you all.
Have we talked to the other 2 then, and they're still going to be making proposals out to other cities, like they'll bring on staff and make it happen, or is this going to be a case where we waited too long and then we're just stuck with the county and their nonsense?
One of them will submit a proposal. We have not solicited a proposal from the 3rd, and I'm trying not to get too specific here, but the 3rd is another community that is offering the service, and we've had mixed recommendations, perhaps, of whether we should consider that option. Try not to get too into the weeds of the nuance there, but we don't necessarily feel comfortable pursuing that 3rd option, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So we anticipate getting a proposal from one of the companies that has been proposing to other communities, and then we're having discussions with another neighboring community about whether they'd be interested in picking up our service potentially. So look at a couple different options beyond the county.
We did hope to get 2 from the 2, what I'll call the 2 qualified bidders, but one has indicated they won't submit at this time. They're just not able to consider that at this moment.
Okay. So in talking to another city, they already offer the service, like they do in-house assessing, and
Right.
they'd just be taking on the city?
We provided the same information that we provided to the private consulting operations, to the public operation in the neighboring community to see if they'd be interested in it.
What other local cities around us were using Oakland County?
Milford Township, Commerce Township, Walled Lake, Wolverine Lake, the Village of Milford, I believe Lyon Township, City of South Lyon, pretty much everybody.
Have those communities already signed with someone else, or is this a situation?
Some have, yeah.
Okay. It's not a situation where we could do like a regional partnership and somebody has the floor space in their town hall or city hall and that's where the person's housed, but we all hire the staff together?
That is an option, and something we've talked about extensively. The problem is that there's not enough time to figure it out. Even with this extension, coming up with a joint, and I'll actually use the Trailway Council as a decent example. It takes a lot of work to get communities to collaborate on a joint authority or some kind of joint situation, and then doing the ramp up. So hiring somebody, hiring a team, getting a department set up, if you will. So we have liked that approach of partnering with other communities, but we haven't had the time to figure it out. And some folks have made decisions so quickly that we couldn't even try to explore the route. Like they'd already gone with a private service provider. In one case, I think it was literally the week after the county made the decision. So everyone's been kind of moving at different paces. I think we would still like to explore that in the longer term. But there's a route of which that we may have to find a 3-year solution or 1-year solution or other kind of things while we try to figure out a longer term plan. So,
do you know the length of contract that these other cities are signing with the private corporations?
I believe, I have not read all of them. I believe they're all between 3 and 5 years.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I know that we're saying we don't have that much time. We kind of knew something was coming, so it would have been nice if everybody started having a chat ahead of time, because wasn't a surprise that it was going up. I think the surprise was the number, but not that it was, it wasn't really a surprise. So when do you expect to have a proposal, you know?
We should have a proposal, at least one by the end of the month. I'm very confident in that. I don't know if we'll come to any sort of resolution with the neighboring community that we've been talking to. I couldn't say.
Okay.
So we, I guess transparently, there is a scenario where we come to you all and say, hey, we've been able to secure one qualified third-party provider quote, and we have the county quote, and we've got to make a decision between those two. That's a possible scenario, probably likely.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Councilmember Brown Fox?
So just to confirm, they're holding the price?
Correct.
Okay, for that extension. And then, do you know, so each city must designate an assessor. Do they have to be a level 4?
For Wixom, they do, yes.
They do? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Councilmember Behrman?
I guess I would just sort of follow suit on prior conversation. I mean, if 6 or 7 other communities have already agreed to hire someone, I feel like we have to be a little bit behind the ball here. And it may come down to, we're not gonna get the best offer because we weren't moving quickly. So anything we can do to speed it up would probably be beneficial at this point, especially because we're not gonna have that other company bidding, right? And clearly, if they've gotten all the work so far, they were probably the better value. I'm not sure if they were gonna get the best service, but I would be interested to see when it does come before us. Yes, the comparison between what the private company is going to be and what Oakland County's proposal is, but I'd also like to see in comparison what other cities are paying and what we were paying before, just so we can kind of see whether or not, by possibly being asleep at the wheel a little bit, how much it costs us, if it did cost us something. Does that make sense?
Sure.
The only thing I would say about your commentary right there is that that's yet to be determined how it's going to work out in the long run.
Oh, no, I agree.
If they've signed on with a company that can handle 4 clients, but they've added 7, I'm not sure that's going to be a good situation for that community, and that's why the city decided not to step in at that early stage of the game, because some of that information was certainly unknown at that point, and I'm concerned it's still not known at this point. So there were reasons why we didn't make a decision to jump in.
It's not the largest contract we have in the grand scheme of things,
Correct.
but
Money saving is another question. Will it be money saving? That's to be determined as well.
okay. I'd just like to see the numbers when it comes before us, just so I can see what happened. Does that make sense?
Understood.
Thank you.
Clearly.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I got a motion, a second, to approve the recommendation to approve the First Amendment to the contract for Oakland County Equalization Division Assistance for Real and Personal Property Assessment Administration Services to extend the current agreement to August 31st, 2025, with funding from Contractual Services Assessing Account Number 101-257-956.145, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. New business number 8 is a recommendation to ratify the tentative agreement between the City of Wixom and the Michigan Association of Firefighters and authorize the mayor to sign the collective bargaining agreement on behalf of the city. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Assistant City Manager Brown.
Yeah, nothing much to say on this other than we had closed session discussions with mayor and council about how to proceed on a collective bargaining agreement. We managed to come to a tentative agreement that's in line with the parameters that were established in our closed session discussions, and we're bringing that tentative agreement forward for approval by mayor and council so we can proceed.
Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, I got a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to ratify the tentative agreement between the City of Wixom and the Michigan Association of Firefighters and authorize the mayor to sign the collective bargaining agreement on behalf of the city. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And that concludes the new business portion of the meeting tonight, which moves us to the second call to the public. I'll read those rules real quick again. As the public shall address the council during the call to the public, which shall be included on the agenda immediately after correspondence. And again, immediately after new business. The first call to the public immediately after correspondence shall be limited to agenda items only. A person shall not address the council in excess of 5 minutes unless the time is extended by a majority vote of the council present. Persons wishing to address the council shall identify themselves and their place of residence and shall state their reason for addressing the council. And all comments by the public shall be made directly to the council. Do we have anybody for the second call to the public? Seeing none, I'll close that second call to the public and move on. City manager's comments. City Manager Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. The only thing that we have in the city manager update is related to a thank you note that the Department of Public Works received from Sarah Banks, teacher and her class, students, for the Earth Day event that we held at the Department of Public Works. Some of you were present that day that had the opportunity to attend. So congratulations to the DPW on the Earth Day event and for the thank you that they received from the students and the teacher. Other than that, we have the events that are in the dates to remember, and that's, oh, yeah, June 12th picnic for the Employee Appreciation Picnic is this coming Thursday. Somebody wanted me to remind you of that.
Assistant City Manager Benson, anything?
I have no additional comments.
Clerk Opelko, do you have anything to add tonight? I want you to feel left out over there. All right, moves us on to council comments. Councilmember Sharp.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to comment on the Thursday night concert series. Off to a great start last Thursday. The crowd really started pouring in about 7:30 after the sun came out. And I look forward to continuing work on getting the generators for the food trucks moved. Food truck ordinance, there was a flashing strobe light, and I have to remember I said, no, don't send it back to Planning Commission, but now I'm glad we did because the light was blinding when you're sitting there staring at the flashing light in the food truck. And I look forward to lights being put up for the stage, and I know we've funded that in the budget, so I think all those will just continue to enhance what's already a great event downtown. Thank you.
Councilmember Behrman.
The only thing I'll add is the flowers look really good this year. It's a new vendor.
Good. Councilmember Gacho. Councilmember O'Day.
Just that, again, Thursday night was really great. I was glad to see the weather decided to cooperate there as the day wore on. So looking forward to more of those in the next several weeks of the summer. Thank you.
Councilmember Granlund Fox.
I'd like to thank all the residents that were appointed this evening for the various boards, as well as those who resigned. I'd like to share my condolences with Crystal and her family. And I'd also like to let everyone know I will be traveling for work, so I will be absent the June 24th meeting. That's all.
Very good. Deputy Mayor Resnick.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. Also enjoyed the start and kickoff of our concert series. And Tim, I know, I think it's in next year's budget, so technically we can't spend it till July 1st, but man, some lights under that stage. There was a drummer under there and no one could tell last week. It's just so dark under that gazebo. Also, Annette and I became proud grandparents again yesterday. My daughter gave birth to Graham James. So I'll be heading to Grand Rapids to see the new baby.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
All right, I want to thank everybody who was reappointed tonight for their commission. I really appreciate the service that they do for the citizens for this city. And it was really fun to have a nice crowd at the first Thursday night concert. The front row people were there again this year, up dancing and having a good time, and that's what it's all about, and I'm glad to see it happening. And don't forget, tomorrow is the last day of school, so if you're driving through neighborhoods and stuff, please be careful. Watch for little children and balls and everything like that coming out into the streets. So let's be safe, have a good, safe summer. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Support.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, folks.